moving fairly quickly through a lot of projects that are all over the world, so hopefully you can jump around with me. This particular project is in London. The scale of this project is large in terms of the in terms of the number of units, about 3,000 apartments. The site is a peninsula just off the Thames. And this project's actually been in planning in London for 2.5 years, which makes New York City planning seem like a cakewalk, I think. The program is very complex because it includes high-end apartments, affordable housing, and what they call key worker housing, which is sort of mid-level housing, and all of the amounts or the quantities of housing are very strictly dictated by the government. There also is a performing arts center, a school, and office space that are integrated into this community. But the most interesting challenge is actually the environmental challenge, and in order to get a project approved in the City of London, you have to meet a very strict standard. It's something unheard of in the U.S. So this pertains to the material and finishes of the buildings, the size of the window openings, the kind of mechanical plant that you use. All of these things are affected by the criteria coming from the government. You can see here the plan of this development. So there's about 3,000 apartments here. There are actually another 3,000. This is an adjacent site that we're developing also. This is this tributary of the Thames called the Lee River. And what actually makes this very sustainable is its access to transportation. This is a DLR, and the Jubilee line have a station that's right here. We're connecting to it by a pedestrian bridge. Vehicular access comes here. It's actually a very forlorn place if you've ever been there. Right now it's a cooking oil factory, and there's a highway that rings it, as well as these rail tracks. And although we've painted this river blue, a nice Caribbean blue, it's actually pretty muddy, and when it's at low tide, which is the darker blue in the center, there's a lot of tires and old refrigerators and stuff that sit out here. But this is we're going to clean this up. But it's been really exciting and interesting to work on this project from the standpoint of an American architect because of the kind of requirements that pertain to the environment. And we're going to use we have a centralized plant, physical plant for the whole island here that generates steam. And the way the plant has been set up, in the future when alternative fuels are available, it can be run off of fuel pellets. It can be run off of all kinds of waste, because the City of London is very ambitious about their requirements for people to use renewable energy resources. Now, there are ways now that you can do that by buying electricity that was produced using a more efficient, environmentally sensitive means, but we had to actually integrate this into the base of the building. And there's a strategy which is quite remarkable. You can bring in barges that have these pellets that help feed the plant. Ultimately, when these become available, they're not available on any kind of large scale yet. But this is the kind of sort of green strategy that the City of London is really pushing on people now, and ultimately it's going to have a very positive effect for that place. One of the things that you can notice that is architectural rather than engineering related, all of these buildings are sort of oblong shapes, are oriented only at a maximum of 30 degrees off of north-south, which allows them to perform better in terms of daylight. So in order to meet the daylight requirements, the buildings actually had to have this orientation, roughly north-south, which maximizes the exposure to the sun on the east and the west. This is another view. This shows the Pedestrian Bridge. We've been working with the artist and industrial designer, engineer Thomas Heatherwick, who did the store for Longchamp here in New York. It has this sort of ribbon stairs coming through it. His idea is actually that the bridge will be suspended off the building with these stainless steel bands, and the bands work with this architectural idea of these sort of strata that echo the strata of the river. and the bands sort of slip into the building. We're still developing and working on this idea with Thomas, but we think this could be a spectacular gateway into the development. Nothing green about that, though, unfortunately.